The story of frontline PDP's Democratic Party's aspirant in the Delta State 2023 governorship race, Kenneth Gbagi, is one that captivates the mind and serves as a source of inspiration to millions. From his humble childhood, growing up in Sapele town in Delta State, to moving across the world in a quest for knowledge and experience, usurping obstacles, challenging himself in the business world, and becoming one of the biggest employers of labor in Nigeria, the former Minister for Education bears it all in this exclusive interview. This is the story of the industrialist Kenneth Gbagi, the young Sapele boy who defied the odds to become a strong favorite for the seat of governor in Delta State come 2023, as told by the business mogul himself.
I was born in Sapele at St. Elizabeth Hospital, Cemetery Road by Agada Road Junction, to the dual parent of Robinson and Florence, to a polygamous home. Today we're about 22 of us. I went to Bishop Johnson Memorial Primary School, Sapele, by the waterside, and I left and sojourned into Lagos, where I originally went to Baptist Academy, and when schools were being transferred with new modifications or addition to schools, we found ourselves in Koshofe Community High School, where I graduated as a school cert holder. Thereafter, I joined the Foreign Service. I soon then zested for better and higher education. After my secondary school, whilst I was in the Foreign Service, that opened up the opportunities for me to go to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, the fastest English area for great education for Americans, for Britons, for name it, everybody from the world went to the Philippines to seek education because it was an English country. At the time, I was shooting to earn a living, to augment my living at the time, because I had one son already. I needed to augment my income. So I was shooting, and I was part of people shooting the film The Birth of Hong Kong. So I bought ticket that evening and went to the Philippines. Philippines about 27-40 minutes flight at the most from Hong Kong. So I got into to the Philippines that day. And as God will have it, the next day, which was a Monday, was the final day for the registration for this exam. So I wrote the exam and I passed. So I immediately registered to read political science at the University of Santo Thomas, founded 11 BC. So that was where I started. But running into the first semester, I just called myself to thought that that was not going to solve my purpose. First, never was it in my contemplation that I was going to be a politician. Never. So I moved to the Philippine College of Criminology, where I did my first, second, and part of my third year. But like everything in life, you take certain decisions because you just needed to correct certain impressions back at home. Where I grew up, from this part of the world in Nigeria, when you say college, the connotation is you are talking about secondary school. So when I went to Philippine College of Criminology, I just said, were I to come back home, this will say I went to secondary school, not to university. So on that note, I transferred to Emmanuel Louis Quezon University, a university that was named after the former president of the Philippines. So I graduated from the Emmanuel Louis Quezon University with a BSc in crime. I went to school. After my second year in school, I came and carried my childhood friend, my wife at the time, because I married her before I left, with my son and her pregnancy. So I was in school. My wife too was in the same school. My son was there. She was pregnant, and no source of income from anywhere. I ventured into trading. I was trading to be able to augment my income. I had a very funny situation. Whilst I was at the advanced wing of the police college with the little resources, that was the time you have 010. You don't eat in the morning, you eat in the afternoon, and you don't eat in the night, because they say enough money, there's no food. And for those of us who have 2 children, when I was doing my youth service, I had 2 children. So it was a feat. The country was in a very, very precarious state. But as I was coming back, as I told you, I was a trader. I have traded good enough that I bought a B2 car. I never forget it. My first car that I bought, LA 9965MH. Blue, nice car. I wash it as though I wash a baby. So after my lectures at the advanced wing of the police college, I do a bit of kabu to make some money to augment the feeding of my family. We had rented a nice flat in Ikeja. We were, so life started all from that point, just to put it. While I was a youth corper, I'd established GICO Security Nigerian Limited. In fact, having studied and the kind of school we went to, we were taught at the time that for you to want to seek employment in government, it means you belong to the lower echelon of the brain power and academics. That if you're very brilliant, you should be employer of people, not people employing you. So with that mindset that I came up with, I'd established GICO Security Nigerian Limited as a youth corper. And it will interest you that GICO Security grew in such speed that we took over the entire banks in Nigeria, from the UB of this world to Union Bank, from Union Bank to First Bank, from First Bank to... We took, including all the UTB, all the Generation New Bank, we took all of them over. It will interest you. The money will not appear big to you today, but 6,000, 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 4,000, like that. That company, I must confess, gave birth today to the conglomerates of businesses I now handle. We are the owners of Nayi Press. We are the owners of the Signature Hotel Group. We have one here, we have in Lagos, we have in Abuja. We are replicating so many now. We do not have what it takes to thank God enough. GICOs gave birth to everything you have today. It is not seamless that there were no bumpy road, but my determination, and it has been with me from time, and it's the same thing. For instance, I've said I'm contesting the governorship. Nothing on this planet Earth will stop me from doing so. And it is with that determination that I plunged into the business world. It's not all rosy, but I must tell you that let us rather talk about the success story. Most significantly is that my again is very funny. I've never taken loan in my life. I don't know what loan look like. I've never seen the form before. So I couldn't have applied. Everything you have seen, as you will see more later, is the grace of God and hard work. I'm blemishless. If you work hard, you believe in God, you are not deceitful, you are not a thief, you are not a criminal, you don't have character issues, hardly God will not touch it. And when God touches it, it must work. It is God that has touched this one. So business is good. We're into constructions, we're into hospitality, we're into industry, we're into security, as you know already. We're into insurance, we're into banking, we're into all sort of things. We're into oil and gas, in little bits and pieces. But sum it up, we're very grateful. And we believe strongly that God is biased in our favor. First, Delta State. When it comes to business today, I'm the biggest singular private investor physically in the state. If you go to Uvia, where I started, I'm the biggest investor there. So with business, I will transform Delta.
With the present state of the economy in Delta State and how the rich resources have been managed without Delta maximizing our full potentials, it is expedient that the citizens look inward into the resume of aspirants rather than drum support for mediocres shoved down their throats by so-called party leaders. For Delta to be industrialized, it needs an industrialist polished with visible success in the business world, and the one and only individual who can transform the state come 2023 without any shadow of doubt is Kenneth Gbagi. This is Rero TV. My name is Rero Henry Akbos.